Hello.
Hi, I'm Annalisa. He just licked me. It was so rude.
She had steak on her face.
I am. My name is Annalisa. This is Tom.
Hello.
And we are Meat and Marriage because we are carnivores, zero carb, eat tons of meat, but lots of fat too. I should be a fativore.
Spazivore?
That too.
Chativore?
That too. And we love being married and we love eating meat. So meat and marriage, the end. It's been a many days, but if you just found
It's
us,
probably been a many months. I don't know. It's been a
I
little while. So
know.
hello to those
Hi, all.
who still hang out and might show up to watch this.
You know what's great? We've done all this
Doesn't
introducing
matter.
and we haven't even talked about what we're going to talk about yet, which is what I used to
Carnivore.
just jump right into.
Carnivore.
Specifically, we
Carnivore.
are going to share some lessons that we have learned through experience recently regarding heart health, cardiovascular issues, and the effect of the carnivore diet on heart disease, atherosclerosis.
Iridocyclitis.
Oh, you are
Okay.
rich today.
Always rich. I'm very rich. I'm wealthy. So it started out in 2021 in the summer.
Yep.
Tom was working, as you do, in a hot house, texturing. It was very hot. And looking back, we think probably he had a little heart attack, just a little one. And it freaked him out.
Maybe.
We don't have proof of that, but he went to a holistic practitioner he was using at the time,
Yeah, with naturopath.
naturopath,
Yeah.
who promptly sent him to get
Well,
a CAC
it
scan.
actually it
No.
didn't quite work like that.
You
wasn't-
tell it. It was
so-
your heart.
So I told him what the deal was, and he was like, I don't know. I don't know if he said if he did. I don't remember. I don't think he did an EKG. No, he didn't. We just talked
Not in
about
the
stuff,
moment,
and
yeah.
he wasn't super concerned, and I probably downplayed it a little bit.
You never.
But I also was concerned because of just being fat and big and eating garbage and living, that kind of lifestyle for a
Married
long,
to a
long
tramp.
time.
He had the whole thing going. Just kidding.
Well, not well.
Just
I
being
digress.
silly. I'm being silly.
So anyway, I told him, I said, is there any way we could check out my heart? That's the only thing I was really concerned about because this was kind of the starting of the let's do something different. Although it didn't, it was another year and a half later before we got on carnivore and things really changed. I guess it was the process of it, and I'm like, what can we do to check out the heart? And he goes, well, you can get a CAC and find out your calcium score. And I was like, had no clue what that was. Really still didn't even know any of this stuff until we got involved with carnivore because nobody educates you. Even the naturopath, he was brand new. He was just switching gears, and it was like we'd go see him, pay him a crazy amount of money, and then he'd educate himself talking to us. He's learning while we're learning with him, and we're kind of lost because he's not making sense. And nice guy, trying, but it was time to move on. Anyway, he got me. I'm like, what can I do? So we go get this scan done, and it was a 660. So if you're a carnivore person and been listening to all this stuff and talking about CAC scores and, because it's always the thing, if you have a 0 CAC score, you're totally fine. And, saturated fat isn't a problem. And I believe it isn't. But I didn't know anything at the time. So he gets the score back from the wherever, hospital where I went to get the scan. And he's like, shut it down. Don't do anything. You got to get into a cardiologist. You could be, falling apart, dying. He had, I was like freaked out. And so he shuts me totally down. I don't do anything. Can't get into the cardiologist for, it was either 2 or 3 months. I don't really know. It felt like a year. And so we get in there, and this guy's like Mr. Laid Back, which I don't mind. I know what to ask now, but I didn't then. I didn't know what was going on. And so I got the echo, cardiogram, stress test, EKG, all that stuff done. He's like, it's a wake-up call. You probably need to make some changes. And
You got a lot to live for, I remember him saying.
yeah. And so,
But he was real chill, and he certainly didn't make us.
well, and I passed the echo and,
Yeah,
all
true.
that stuff. And so it was,
He Did you have the beginnings? He had a little,
Of heart
he had a little
disease.
model thing that he showed. He's like,
Which
where
I
there's
don't
clean
even
arteries
remember
and
that. Yeah.
you were like 2 steps in. Like, there's some I don't know, plaque. I think he said
Yeah,
plaque. I didn't
probably.
It didn't
I don't.
register, but
I don't know. I was just in.
I was like,
Alls
"Oh, I
I
think
heard
he's
was.
okay."
Alls I heard was like, yeah, you're
You're
probably
okay.
all right. That's all I heard. That was the end of it.
and we ended up going down the elevator. We were leaving the building.
Oh, yeah.
He jumps in the elevator with us, drinking an energy drink.
Oh.
He goes, "Well, at least it's not the tequila I used to drink, though.
He
Keep
said I
in
used
my
to.
desk."
He said I had to keep it in my desk. This job is stressful. He said, you're a good case. He said, no, I just deal with people that everything's falling apart. And he said,
So we're like,
oh.
"Oh,
Well, looking back at it, it's kind of funny, but it's also like, well, that was a great example. But
yeah."
and he was, a
Nice
very
guy,
well-known
but-
and a
and-
well-known
yeah.
heart doctor. Everybody was like, oh, he's the guy. And
But he
So-
certainly did not give us. He didn't
did.
set us on any kind of path.
so
Honestly.
with that, it goes down to we have to figure out our own health and learn about everything we possibly can learn about. So if you
dig,
have
dig.
something,
Mm-hmm.
an issue of any kind, dig.
If you're not happy with what your healthcare provider has told you, if it doesn't really set, like looking back, we weren't like,
I
we
didn't-
didn't feel great. We were just like, okay, I guess
I'm not
it's
gonna
okay.
die.
But you didn't stop worrying about it.
No, there was no peace.
And then fast forward to a couple months ago.
Yeah, so I'm getting my regular blood work, doing all my stuff, and I'm like, you know what? Let's get another CAC score because I hear about that. Let's check on it because everybody talks it can increase 5 to 10% a year, and I thought, well, the 660s probably has gone up, and I thought, maybe 900,000. I don't know.
I'm like, I know it's gone down.
And
I
she
just
thought it's
knew
gone
it has
down.
gone down, which is not really how they say it works. But some people have lowered their
Right.
calcium score being on carnivore
Right.
and doing other things like that. So I was hopeful.
She went the other way.
wasn't-
I was trying to be real realistic, and I didn't think it had gone down at all. I mean, I guess I hoped you were right, but so anyway, I'm like, hey, I asked my doctor, can I get a CAC? She's like, sure. So they got it set up and went and got it, and they did not. They were going to, I thought like last time they'd send the results to the doctor. Well, they sent them to me I guess I have an app with the hospital that I didn't really think about, but I got an email. And I'm like, oh, I got my test results. So I opened it up. Yeah, that was another little journey. So this was 3 months ago? Not
Not even 3 months ago. So I was driving home
2.
from work the day before
3. No, it's been almost 3.
our second grandchild was born. So I
Oh,
got
God.
to be there at the birth. So I had like the most magical day of my life. And then next day I'm driving home and he's like, I got my score.
And we're talking on the phone.
And I said, because I was yip-yapping about the birth or whatever my brain had been on
it
that
was
day.
great,
probably.
yeah.
And then he said, well, I got my score. And I was like, oh, what was it? And he goes,
It's terrible.
horrific.
Yeah.
And I was, or horrendous, or he said some big word that he doesn't normally use in speech. And so I thought he was being, sarcastic. And he goes, 27. And I was like, oh, well, that's
No.
great. But he kept talking, 91. And I was like, wait, what?
2,791.
Like
so,
almost 3,000. Like you were at 660 a few years ago, and you're almost 3,000 now. We spent like the next 6 weeks in a
no,
fugue
it
state.
was, no,
Oh, 6
no.
days.
Yeah. I'm like,
You got on it.
Geez.
Felt like 6 years.
Well, no. I didn't feel that.
We didn't fully come out of the.
Well, it was.
I didn't come out of the fog until
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. So anyway.
skipping ahead.
So anyway,
Foreshadowing.
I was like, oh crap. So first night was just in shock, and then I went into research mode and I started watching videos, digging, trying to find out what the heck, what's up with that. And then it's like, maybe some of these doctors that I watch, maybe they're affordable to get into. They're not.
Not for us anyway.
Just so you know, unless you're wealthy, you don't get into these guys. They probably are great guys, and I watch them, but yeah, that ain't happening. So anyway, you start thinking, and then I started watching, and then I was watching Dr. Ford Brewer, which he's kind of a hybrid of kind of where we're at, because he's pro carnivore, but not carnivore. He believes in statins to a degree, but he believes in them. And so I listened to some of his stuff, and I like how he explains stuff and how he talks about in his guest, and he's I think 69 or 70 years old, and he's teachable. So he's always learning. So I like that. So anyway, after listening to him a little bit, he was talking about if you do something to make drastic changes to stop all the bad production of soft plaque that turns into calcification, he said you will your calcium score could go up dramatically. And I went, oh, hang on a second. So I'm like digging into more stuff like this. So what ended up actually happening was, because I went carnivore, got all the junk out of my system, the soft plaque that was running through my system and going through stabilized. I had triglycerides that were almost 600, no HDL. I mean, it was like low 20s.
This was before
carnivore, carnivore. And so, I nothing. So, the high triglycerides is the soft plaque to a degree of my understanding.
There's a correlation there.
Correlation.
Well, the thing that we learned really quickly was that 85% or around there of heart attack and stroke cardiac events are caused by soft plaque, because it's the unstable. It can rupture, and then it creates a clot that then clogs whatever artery or to create the cardiac event. I had no idea there was a differentiation.
I didn't either.
And very few of those heart attacks are actually caused by it being so narrowed by the calcified plaque that it actually closes up.
Most of it's from a rupture, because then the soft plaque's floating through, and it hits some hard plaque with like a shard on it, and it ruptures it. Well, then what it does is it forms a blood clot and constricts that opening, and boom, you either have a stroke or a heart attack.
Right.
And so you don't want that floating through.
So the soft plaque is actually the dangerous one. Yeah. And so he had, I wrote it down.
And for all of this, do your research. We might have a little detail off or something.
We definitely are not doctors. But
do
Ford
your research.
Brewer had an episode, we'll link below, a YouTube episode where he had Ariana Feldberg. She's an RVS, registered vascular sonographer, I think.
Yeah.
So she does these CIMTs, which is...
It's an ultrasound on your neck and your aortic.
It's carotid intima medial thickness test.
Yeah.
I got it. So CIMT, and they talked about that as 98.6% accurate on predicting whether you are at risk for a cardiac event, because it measures the soft plaque in particular. And so once we learned about that, Tom found a screening place.
It was about 4 or 5 days after I found it. There was one available.
And we went ahead and both got it done. And they screened for a bunch of other things too. I think it cost us about $100 a person, because we had to pay out of pocket on that. I think we paid about $100, but
150 a person, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got that CIMT, and then it took like 10 days to get the results
we're
back.
like
So
waiting
in the
every
meantime,
day.
because it's like, how much soft plaque does he have?
So,
we didn't know at that
so
point.
of course, my doctor, I was supposed to have a follow-up appointment. Well, I'll back up. So when we did that, I also just got online, scheduled an appointment with a cardiologist that was super available, that had good reviews.
Because that other one, not that we would have gone back anyway, but he had moved out of town, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone back to him.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing against the guy, but I just wouldn't have gone back to him because he didn't offer a bunch of information. So I don't think, who I went to, I don't know, would have either, unless we brought the information.
Right. We just knew how to ask questions. We needed a fresh start.
So went and saw this lady, and she, asking why we're here, and told her the story and stuff. And she, of course, she has the records of the plaque. She's like, "Oh, that's significant." And this was like on a Wednesday. She goes, "You probably should get back in for a CT angiogram Friday right away." And she wasn't directly saying it, but then her nurse Pratt came in
she was a little more alarmist.
She was like, "Oh," she goes, "Yeah, you're probably going to need stents, and you might not be able to get them all in one shot because we can only do 2 or 3 at a time."
And all of a sudden we're like, wait, he's getting stents on Friday? Like, this was Wednesday afternoon, and we're going to be here in a day and a half. And, so we had to get there at 7:30 in the morning. They put the catheter in his arm and the dye in his heart. And
the other thing that was interesting too, though, is she was surprised that I had no events, no like, she goes, what's
Like
happening?
symptoms, like
And
the
I'm
really-
like,
yeah.
well, the plaque's like outrageous. And he goes, yeah, it's really, 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 really high. She goes, So anyway, it was just kind of a kind of
Yeah.
a weird thing. And
Well, it was atypical that he would be feeling as good as he
Right,
was
right,
feeling
very
and have that
atypical.
high of a score. And she's like, well, either way, this is an outrageous score. We need to get you in immediately. So Friday morning, we're in there. He's scrubbed up, ready for the procedure. And they said they could get 3 to 4, depending the
Is that what it was?
state of his arteries. They could probably get 3 in at once of the stents because she's thinking there's
One
going to have to
trip,
be
more.
potentially more. And the 2 people that he was the 3rd procedure of the day, so the 2 people ahead of him had some complications or
So
some
we're like,
additional. And
great,
we're like,
just sitting
great.
there
It's just like
waiting.
hours and hours. Finally, take him back there, and I expected. They said 1 to 2 hours, depending how many stents they had to put in. So I was kind of just geared for hour or hour and a half, whatever. I just kind of settled in. I had my book. I'm just like, I start reading it. 20 minutes goes by and the cardiologist comes busting in the door right ahead of Tom. And she's like, the rocks were on the sides. She's doing this number. The rocks were on the sides. She was so excited because when they went in there and looked, the blood flow was not restricted. He did not need any stents.
So they were concerned there was a dam in
Like there
the-
would be a collection, like a grouping of the calcification that would create a blockage.
Right. So instead, she said it was like a
She said it
riverbed
was
line.
laid down
She goes, there's a ton of
even,
it, but she goes,
But
it's lined
it was
evenly.
even, and there's no restriction in the flow. So that's why he doesn't feel short of breath or have low energy or the things he would have if his blood was actually not properly flowing. And she was just so excited. She's like, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Of course, she
yeah.
said, and we'll get you on a statin. We're going to get that cholesterol
Yeah,
way down.
we'll-
We got to get that
we'll
down.
go
We're going
for
to
it.
hit that hard.
So
And we're like, "Okay."
of course, so I was like, they'd ask where my pharmacy was, and here's the funny thing about it. It's like there was no follow up scheduled with her.
No?
There was, and this is the thing where we've got to take care of our own health. You've got to quote kind of negotiate the health system and learn how to navigate through them and kind of play a game with them to get what you need. Because this kind of, I mean, it's like they're there if you need the stent, but they're
They
going
don't quite know what to do when it's okay.
Well, but it's also it's just their belief is different to what causes
yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so then in the carnivore circles, and well, it's ever increasing. It's becoming more mainstream that LDL is not the devil.
Right.
But
That's big-
anyway, so there was no follow up. So I called my pharmacy like a week later. I'm like, hey, did you get any prescriptions filled? I'm like, no, nothing for you. So they didn't call in the statin. They didn't do anything. So it's like they just left me. That was it. We're done. Okay, great.
And if
and
you
so-
had needed something, you would have had to.
I would have
you
had
would
to, if
push
it's like,
the
oh,
issue.
so if I felt like I needed a statin, I would have had to push it. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
had to go that. So anyway, in the meantime, before this, in between the CAC score test, and I had a follow up with my
primary.
primary, and we were supposed to go over those results. They never got the results. And then I had an appointment for blood work again, and so I went in, and I was like, well, I wonder what happened. She goes, I don't know, I never got it. She goes, I don't know anything about this anyway. She goes, because I said, do you know anything about CAC score? She goes, no clue. She goes, I've had a few people ask for them, and people like doing what you're doing. And she goes, but I don't know anything about it. She goes, I wouldn't have been able to help you anyway. She goes, So I thought at least she was being honest, but it's just one of those things where.
Because what if
Thank God for the internet. If you will research well,
especially
and,
now with so much
and
carnivore information, so
hopefully-
many doctors that understand zero carb.
hopefully us talking about this, if you have concerns, will make you think about researching or asking questions or digging for yourself. But years and years of eating garbage trash, drinking like a fish, being crazy overweight, it took its toll. And I'm very fortunate that I got carnivore. It stabilized everything, and at the rate it was probably progressing, I was probably in a pretty bad way had I not made the changes.
I think
so
that
we're
the
year and a
level-
half in right now with
Right.
the level of plaque.
With the level of calcified plaque he had in 2021 of 660, I think he had so much soft plaque.
Oh God, I was
Because
so
then
inflamed.
for him to have that high of a calcium score, after several years and then a year and a half of carnivore, I think with all of that calcifying, he must have had so much soft plaque. So knowing what we know now and looking back, I truly do believe that when he got on carnivore and started to get his health together, it really was kind of a last chance situation where it was like, do or die, quite literally.
Kind of felt that way for sure.
So looking back and realizing, you see some of these results and you realize he's been able to heal himself and pull back from the brink of some major cardiac event that would be life-threatening.
Now, granted, there was an interpretation that came through. That's the whole thing. I haven't even be able to talk to anybody about the interpretation, but there was one where it read as like, I have a stenosis in one of the coronary arteries at 35%, or so blockage or narrowing. So, but that's no need for a stent.
Right, they don't do
70%.
Until I thought it was over 50.
She said 70. It varies.
I think
who
she
says.
said to me there was nothing over 50.
Right. Well, in the report, it was 35.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, there you go.
So that's even better.
That is even better because I was like,
So,
well, it's at least
and
halfway open and he
it
can
was
do it.
just one of them. So
Yeah. So
I
surely there's
will,
some.
I will
yeah.
keep getting CAC tests just to kind of see and keep an eye on things. And
Well, listening to all these doctors too, they talk about if you are in a severe state, you need to monitor this like once a year. If you are progressing very slowly, every couple years. So this stuff doesn't just develop overnight.
No, this has
now
been
you get to
developing
a
for years
critical
and years
point,
and
and it'll go
years.
quickly.
yeah,
But
I'll get another test in 6 months.
I mean, I think you should
They're
start
$100.
with the CIMT. Like to me, finding out the soft plaque is even more indicative of whether you're actually in danger because you could have a very low calcified score and still have the soft plaque that's actually the more dangerous. So to me, and that's why I went ahead and got one too, just in
You spend
case.
150 on one and 100 on the other, 250. Save your pennies and
To have, right. Now, the
course, you got
CIMT
in-
wasn't
of
covered
course
by
you-
insurance
no.
because nobody, like the hospitals don't do it. But if you watch that, the Ford Brewer where he interviews Ariana Feldberg, you'll learn so much about this simple test that's painless, non-invasive,
Quick.
and gives you 98.6% accuracy. Like there's no other coronary test out there to show your risk that's that effective and that simple. But it's hard to get because not a lot of places do it.
yeah, that's a mobile unit they set up at places. Like
This was
we went
called
to
Lifeline screening, I
Yeah,
think.
and we-
Ours
yeah, it was
which I
Lifeline.
don't know if that's across the
It's everywhere.
U.S.
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah,
but
is.
it was great. It was really easy, and ours both came back in the good. And this
Oh
one,
yeah, that one. I was like, we got it back the next day after.
After we
on
met with the
Thursday in between
cardiologist.
Wednesday and I was like, crud.
by then we
Wish I
already had
coulda
the
told her.
procedure, but
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, I still would have had the procedure.
yeah, no, I know you
Yeah.
would have, but it just we didn't get to share that with the cardiologist.
Yeah,
So,
because we didn't know what.
but
was
I
going
never
on, so-
knew this CIMT existed. I had no idea about what. I didn't understand the difference between soft and hard plaque. I just stable,
Yeah.
soft and calcified, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense now looking and putting all the pieces together. But I think everyone should, address that concern if you've lived hard, if you're not sure, if you're worried about it. And what was super weird is after he had that procedure, the catheter, whatever,
CT angiogram. Yeah.
that. He's like, there was this level of stress that came off of him because he said he's been worried about this for like close to 10 years, which I
yeah.
didn't even know because he just kind of keeps it in. And what's he going to do? Talk about it? Like, I don't know. I guess there was nothing really to talk about. So, but he has like relaxed and been more relieved. So if that's you, if you have this dark cloud in the back of your mind, like, oh, what's the state of my heart?
Well, those are a
I mean,
couple of
it's pretty
simple things to
important,
do.
But yeah.
But I mean, if you're diabetic, you got
If you have
problems. If
any aspect of
you're
metabolic
concerned.
disease,
Yeah, the
yeah.
metabolic disease, being diabetic, that's high triglycerides. Or have had those things and they've been reduced through carnivore. You probably
Be
should
good
get
to check.
checked out because that's where
And then knowledge is power. Then you can figure out, what can I do? What are my options? What are some things that would improve it if it needs to be improved? Or could I relax and just be happy that I'm going to make it a lot longer than I was if I hadn't changed my ways?
Just don't go back to the donuts and the junk and
Yeah.
the tequila. There you go. That was
Yeah.
a lifestyle.
So that's our story about our experience with heart health on carnivore. Life-saving. And do your own research and get the help you need. It's out there. Thank God we live in the future and we can turn on the internet and poof, have access to all this information. Don't be afraid to learn. Ask hard questions. Reach out to us if we can help in some way. We'll certainly give it a try.